Hi everyone, Leah here from MIYUKICrystalBeads.com with another fun beading video for you. Before I get started, just a quick reminder to go check out the rest of our channel, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and notification bell and you'll always know when we're posting new content. Today's project is a really fun bracelet made with Superduos, everyone's favorite two-hole bead. It's also featuring a lovely tiara cast button for the closure, and then we have some size 15 seed beads as the completion of what is needed. So I'm going to show you how to make a shorter version for the sake of the video, but I wanted to show you how cool it looks when you do a really long version and you have a really fun wrap bracelet. And what I love about the button and loop closure is that they're really easy to take on and off. So they're a great bracelet for ease of use. Super fun. So this is what we're going to go over today, only a much shorter version and in a different color scheme. So we're going to need 6-pound FIRELINE. I have some threaded up on a needle here. I should need about a wingspan for this shorter version. And again, the shorter version is just going to go around the wrist once. I also have my size 12 needle. I have my little snippers here, and I'm going to give you a close-up of the colors I'm using. So what I like to do is I pick 2 different colors that are in a similar family, and maybe they're different in texture or they're different in saturation, and then I pick one that is kind of a cool metallic neutral color to set them off. And I did the same thing in this one actually. I picked sort of a pastel or even like a sea glass looking blue and green. So sort of a similar type of family. They're both sort of bluey green. And then I picked a silver to set it off. But you can really have fun and use as many or as few colors as you want. This would look beautiful with just 1 or 2 colors. It would look great if you have a mix of Superduos with all different colors, and you'd have a really fun look for summer. But that's what I have going on here. And then I have a size 15 seed bead. This one is MIYUKI. You can certainly use Toho if you'd like. And I have my little tiara cast button. This one's in a nice copper color with the tree design that has a little bird up in the tree. I thought that would be really pretty. Okay, so this starts off pretty easy. We're going to do this in a few different steps here. And the first step is just loading on nothing but Superduo. So what you want to do is pick your pattern here. I have equal amounts of all 3 colors, and I'm just going to load on A, B, C, repeat. So I'm going to get a whole bunch loaded on, and I will see you back here in just a minute. Okay, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of Superduos loaded on. I've gone through the same hole through all of them. We're not utilizing that second hole yet, but one of the things you're going to want to do is, as you're picking up each Superduo, give a quick glance at that second hole just to make sure you're not picking one up that is plugged up. Every once in a great while, you may find a Superduo that has a hole that has a little bit of a plug in it, and most of the times you can just pop it with your needle, but every once in a while you can't. So with this long one, for example, out of all of them, there were only 2 that I had a problem with. So it's really rare, but it's just enough of a nuisance where it can halt the production of your project. So make sure you just give a little bit of a peek on those second holes just to make sure you're not going to run into a problem later. The other thing I did was I threw on a little stop bead here. And a stop bead is just a little extra bead that I looped through just so that way it keeps these beads from coming off. This is going to come off later. It's just temporary to keep your beads from coming off. If you push it hard enough, you can move it, but that won't be a problem right now. Okay, so we're going to encourage our Superduos to sit sort of in every other direction like that. And what we're going to do now that we're coming out of the end is I'm going to pick up 4 of my 15s here. And I'm going to go through the loop of the second hole of the next Superduo down. So we're going to start by plugging in a bunch of 15s going down the side, or the first side of our bracelet. And it's going to be 2 15s in between each one. So you're going to want to make sure that as you work on it, you don't go through the very next Superduo. So I don't want to go through this one here because that one needs to flip in the other direction. Because remember, we're going to go through every other Superduo. So you can see how this is the one that I want to go through right there. So we're going through every other Superduo and just make sure that they flip to the correct side that they're supposed to be on. So again, I'm going to pick up 2 15s, and I'm going to go into the second hole of every other Superduo, or every Superduo that naturally wants to flip on to this new side. So in this particular case, the next Superduo is that gold one there, but that's flipped to the other side, which is what we want. So therefore we want to go through every other Superduo so that way it flips every other Superduo to the correct side that you're on, just like this. Okay, we're just going to go down the whole side of the bracelet just like that, and I'll see you back in a minute. Okay, I've gone to the other side. As you can see, it really helps everything to straighten out. And I'm popping out of the last Superduo on the side I'm working on, right there. And you can see right here is that very first Superduo that's sitting on the other side or heading in that direction. And then we have that stop bead. Now we're not going to take that stop bead off yet because as we keep working, we don't want anything else to get loose. So we're going to keep that stop bead there for now. But what we're going to do to start to add the seed beads on this side here, we're first going to go down the very center to get to the other side so we can pop out of that last Superduo in the right direction. This will also help to add a little more strength to our design. So all I'm going to do is head right into the hole of the last Superduo that has our little stop bead right there. Okay, but I'm going to pick up 4 15s just like I did on this side before I do that. And you're just going to ignore that that stop bead is even there. We'll end up taking it off in a bit. And just before I pull this all the way through, I'm just going to see what I can get my needle to go through in one pass, which is about like that. I'm going to pull this down. And what we've done is we're basically mirroring what we did on the other side as far as those 4 seed beads. Eventually we'll add on another 3 here, so we'll have a total of 7, and we'll utilize the one right in the center on each side to add our button and our loop on. So for now, all I'm going to do is keep going down my center holes on all those Superduos, basically the holes that we first went through when we were stringing them all on. I'll pop back the other side and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've gotten to the very end and I'm coming out of the first hole, that sort of middle hole, I guess, if you want to look at it as, you know, the hole that runs along the middle of the bracelet of that first Superduo. Now, like I said, we had 4 here. We have 4 here, seed beads here now. We're going to add another 3. That way we end up with a total of 7 in that little group. So I'm going to pick up 3 new 15s and I'm going to go right into the open hole of that same Superduo heading back into the bracelet, because what I'm going to do now is repeat what I did on this side here. So I'm just going to go Superduo to Superduo, adding in 2 15s in between each one. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back down to the other side. I went ahead and I pulled off my stop bead, and what we can do at any time is just stick a needle on this tail and we can weave it into the bracelet, tying a few half-hitch knots along the way. But what I'm going to do to finish off this little seed bead section here, again, we have 4 seed beads already there, our little size 15s. We need 3 more to complete that. And what I'm going to do is, instead of entering into that center part of the bracelet, that first hole we utilized in the Superduos, I'm going to head through those 4 seed beads. And this is going to pull these 3 seed beads into a nice little line. And now, to get to the other side, to do the same thing, I'm going to head right down this side of the bracelet. Again, this is going to help to add more reinforcement. So we'll head down this side of the bracelet, all the way to the other side. And then when we get to the end, I'm going to show you how to add the first part of our clasp. Be back in a minute. Okay, I've made it back to the other side, and that little group of 7 size 15s, I traveled up into them after I finished traveling down this side, and I'm popping out of the 4th one, which is the one right in the center. So now I'm going to add on the button of our button and loop closure. And whenever you're doing any kind of a closure like that, you always want to secure the button first, because once that's secured into place, it's going to make judging how many seed beads to use for your loop on the other side a lot easier, and you're going to be able to get it more accurate, because you want it to fit just right. You don't want it to be too big where the button can fall out too easily, but you don't want it to be too tight where it's going to be a struggle to push the button through, and where you're eventually just going to put too much stress on that loop and eventually it could break. So it's crucial to put your button on first. So all I'm going to do is load on a little group of 15s. I'm going to do about 8. I want my button to have some flexibility there. I'm going to go right through that loop. Now with this one, I'll show you. This type of button has the 2 holes on the top and the bottom rather than a shank like this one has. So all I did here, let me take this off and I'll show you exactly what I did on this one because it's a little bit different depending on that button style. All I did here was I did a nice big loop of seed beads. It's sort of flexible how many you want to do because it's not anything that has to go through here. And I just went up into that clasp and it can just sort of float on here, which is nice. I want it to have some flexibility. I didn't want it to be too tight, too stiff. And that's all I did for this style of button. We have a lot of different tiara cast buttons and they're all either the type with the 2 holes here or they're the type with the shank on the back, which is what I'm doing here. So I have some seed beads on here to make a little loop. And I'm going to loop back around into the same size 15 bead that I'm coming out of. So my needle and my working thread are popping out of the same side of the bead. So here's my working thread, here's my needle, it's popping out of the same side. So just looping back around. You get a nice little perfect beaded loop. 8 15s worked out absolutely perfect for that. Now I'm just going to go right back up and I'm going to loop back into that loop a few more times because I want to strengthen it up. After that, I'm going to head right down the other side of our bracelet till we get to the other side and we can work on adding in that loop. Okay, I made it to the other end. I came out from that middle seed bead in that group of 7. I just added on a whole bunch of 15s, looped back around, reinforced it a few more times. Now this particular loop was perfect for this button at 38 MIYUKI size 15s. Now if you use Toho, keep in mind Toho is a hair bigger oftentimes, so you might need to adjust that number. But for this MIYUKI 15, 38 was perfect. If you're curious about the number for this button was perfect at 35 MIYUKI 15s. And that was pretty perfect. So I've gone ahead and looped back around and reinforced my loop. This is a crucial step because this is where all the stress of that bracelet's going to be when it's being worn, if it gets pulled, or as you're pushing the button through it. So you want to make sure you really take the time to reinforce that a few times. I think I have about 4 lines total of FIRELINE going through that. And again, this is 6-pound FIRELINE, so you should have no problem doing that with a size 12 needle on there. And as you can see, it goes through pretty perfectly. We have the back of the bracelet looks nice and clean. So now all that's left to do is to weave out our thread. Now I'm going to show you how to do a half hitch knot just in case you don't know how to do it. Right now I'm just coming out of the bottom 15 or the top 15, however you're looking at it, of that group of 7 that I had on this side. And I'm just going to get my needle behind the thread that's running through those beads. If you pull almost all the way, you get this little loop. Just go through the loop. This ties a little knot. Just close that loop down right where your thread was coming out of your beads. Now you're going to weave a little bit more and do another knot. You want to do at least 3 to 4 knots as you're weaving through your bracelet. Again, take the time to do this. This is what's going to add strength to your bracelet and it's going to help it from falling apart. Again, I made that little loop. Close it down carefully. If you try to close it down too fast, your loop may sort of hop over the next bead and then what will happen is you'll close your knot down, but you'll have thread on the outside of your beadwork. So just make sure you go nice and slow, really take care with what you're doing. Have on your best beading glasses because these 15s are tiny. Just like that. Now, after you've done your last knot, you're not just going to cut your thread. You're going to want to weave a little bit more. So always weave past your last knot a little bit. Oops, I'm getting caught up in my bracelet here. This way you're not cutting right next to your last knot, but you're giving it a little breathing space. And then you'll cut after you've woven through a little bit more. So I'm going to cut this off now. Use my little snippers here. And we have this super adorable bracelet. Now I love these on their own. They're great when they're really long and you can layer them. They're even great if you make them really long and you make little sections of color that are different and then you really get a cool look as you wrap it around your bracelet. Or these are beautiful layered with other bracelets that have complementary colors in them, or colors that complement them rather. So you'll get a really beautiful textured look with this, with another bracelet that looks a little bit different but has a similar color scheme or picks up on one of the colors in that. You can get a really beautiful layered look with this really simple bracelet design. Okay folks, that wraps it up. Make sure to visit us on over at EurekaCrystalBeads.com for all the materials I used in this video. We'll link them to you below as well. And hopefully we can satisfy all of your beading and jewelry needs. Bye.